If you're an online business owner, there's a good chance that every time you travel, especially if you're a solo business owner, you find that your business goes downhill because as you travel, maybe you're going to visit family, friends, maybe you're just having holidays, but there's nothing worse than that feeling. And you go away, you have a good time, and then you come back and you feel like your business has gone backwards. Or during your time away, you're enjoying your time away, but at the same time, you're stressing and worrying because it feels like you're turning a blind eye to your business. And you have this anxiety or fear around, is my business going to go completely backwards? And this doesn't have to be the case. This used to be the case for me, and I used to effectively hustle and get my business to a really good point. And that might be, could have been over the course of a month. Sometimes it was over the course of 6 months where I'd work really hard for 6 months. And then I would get to a point where I was in fitness coaching. I would have 50 odd online clients and I was working very closely with them one-to-one, giving them all my time and effort and attention. And then also, having to do all the admin that comes with that. And then also all the client acquisition stuff. So the sales, the marketing, the missed payments, the sending payment links, the following up with people, the changing programs. It was absolute chaos. And in order for me to build momentum, which is a really important thing in business and in life, I had to do a lot of work. So I had to hustle my way to momentum. And then what would happen with the old model that I had was when I would actually get into momentum, things would be great. I'd be making money, I'd be bringing new clients on, it would feel like the business was growing, but I was effectively pushing this big stone uphill. And as soon as I stopped pushing, the stone would inevitably just start to roll back down the hill. And the longer I stayed away from my work, or the longer I took downtime, it seemed the speed of that stone going downhill would gather and gather. So I ended up a couple of years ago at a point where I would hustle and work really hard for 6 months, and I would really get to a point of burnout and not enjoying what I was doing and really not enjoying my day-to-day life, even though I was making good money, making 6 figures, and had the freedom to work from a laptop. But effectively I was just spending a lot of time working from a laptop in another country. I still didn't really have the freedom that I do now. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about how you can effectively have that freedom and how I think about business growth and travel and downtime and momentum and all of these things. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a broad and vague video. It's not like here's the exact steps to do X, Y, or Z. It's more so talking just about what's on my mind right now, because right now I'm here in the beautiful green fields of Ireland. I've been back visiting for the last few days, and I effectively have done no major work over the last 3 or 4 days. And I have turned down the dimmer switch. So if you've ever seen those lights, that the light switch is not just a button, it's also a dial, which you can turn to the left and turn to the right. And when you turn it down to the left, the lights go down low. And when you turn it up to the right, the lights go up high. That's how I like to think about my work these days versus like on and off. It doesn't have to be fully on or fully off. Because before, what I would do would be fully on and then burn out and then go fully off. And I would go on skydiving trips. I'd spend 2 or 3 weeks jumping out of airplanes. I would just effectively forget about the business. And then the revenue would be coming down. Clients would be dropping off. And it wasn't necessarily that clients were dropping off because the service wasn't good. It was just that when you have 50 clients, clients are dropping off because it's such a number of people. Inevitably, you have people dropping off. And without the hustle, I wasn't bringing more people into the business. I wasn't bringing more leads. I wasn't bringing more sales into the business. So slowly but surely, those people would start to trickle off and drop off. And of course, if you have a community and people are leaving the community, it sometimes can snowball as well, where other people see, okay, people are dropping off, people are not staying here. And that would have a kind of a snowballing effect in the wrong direction, of course. So the way I think about business now is really the more it needs to get you into momentum, the harder it's going to be to stay in momentum. So if right now you're hustling to get your clients, you're posting daily, you're doing loads of DMs, you're trying to go viral, you're putting hours and hours into content and editing and graphics and conversations, and you're doing all of this stuff, but it's not bringing you a huge amount of return, you have to think about the fact that you have to continue to do all of the stuff you're doing to grow at the current rate. So whatever you're doing now in that growth rate, think of the work you're doing plus the current growth rate. Like, how fast are you growing? Are you growing by 1 client a month, 2 clients a month? Maybe you're in something that's not directly client based, but maybe you're growing in terms of sales. If you are effectively growing at or above the rate that you want, this is obviously good. But you have to also look at, how am I growing? So if you're growing at or above the rate that you want, but the amount of work and effort that you are putting in right now is not the amount of work and effort that you want to continuously have to put in to maintain that rate of growth, you've got a slight problem. Because right now, whatever you're doing, if you stop doing it, even if you're at or above the growth rate that you want, if you stop doing all the stuff that's getting you there, you're going to drop below that growth rate. And you may even, slow your growth, stop your growth, and eventually start to go backwards, because business is dynamic and things are changing fast, and there's other people out there who are doing more leveraged work. They're getting more done with every hour, and they're not necessarily just doing more, but they're getting more results with every hour that they put in. And those people are out there putting in the work and seeing the results. And while it's important to separate yourself, become a market of one, not to be somebody who really can be compared to others or competed. Reality is, there will be people out there. We can't totally eliminate competition. We can really stand out, and for the most part, we can remove a lot of competition, and we can place ourselves as the only option. But reality is, there will be other people out there who are doing the work and growing faster. So when I look at business, I think about, what is the minimum amount of work or tasks or items we need to do each day to grow the business. For me, the business growth is effectively just a handful of items each day. I can get it done in less than an hour and a half a day. And often, when I'm traveling, the last few days I didn't even do that. I took time fully off. The only thing I did over the last few days was interact with my clients, keep them moving in the right direction. I spent most of my time playing board games, playing music, catching up with my family, walking my dogs, just doing all this wholesome, good stuff that I wanted to do, and not having to stress and worry about, the business is going to go backwards. I actually went and trained at a client's facility, and we did some velocity-based training, which was quite cool. But that was just something that, I wanted to go and hang out with him. He's a client I enjoy spending time with. I enjoy spending time with all my clients. But I effectively haven't really worked over the last few days. Now, I am creating this video because one of the things that keeps me in momentum is doing a weekly YouTube video. And I enjoy doing YouTube. I think it's a really important part of a business, especially a solo coaching business. And it's, something that's going to be there effectively forever, where people can continue to spend time with you in a closer capacity. They continue to learn from you and connect from you. So this is one of my weekly inputs, is to do a YouTube video. In terms of daily inputs, I've got a daily post, which I write, and I've got a handful of other small tasks, primarily just getting my clients' results is the main thing. Now, there's other times of the year where I will pull the dial right up, and I'll work really hard on leverage things. So I'll build systems, I'll build things that are going to pay me back in the future, and that are going to reduce my workload going forward, but continue to give me some output and some return. And so this is really what we want to find, is we want to find the minimum amount of momentum building activities that we need. And if we can start with that, it means that if you can grow your business in an hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours a day even, if you know that's all it takes to grow my business, to make sure my clients are getting results, to make sure that I am basically, you can hear my dogs, I think it's breakfast time. You can basically know that, okay, if I'm going to travel, if I'm going to go to a wedding, if I'm going to go to visit my family, if I'm going to go for a working holiday, if I'm going to go and take some time off, if I want to just, rent a car and drive around Europe, or rent a camper van and drive around Europe, or any of these cool big picture things that you want to do, that, okay, cool, I just have to wake up in the morning and have a cup of coffee, and do 2 hours on the laptop and my business is going to grow. Now, that is a kind of freedom that almost no job can give you. And everyone talks about, oh, I'll get passive income and I'll live off my investments. Yeah, that's going to happen for you most likely when you're quite a bit older, if you're going the old-fashioned investing route. But with these solo leveraged online businesses, we can effectively just unlock the closest thing to passive income. It's active income. We have to work for our income, but it's doing exciting, enjoyable work. And let's be real, 2 hours drinking coffee and writing some stuff on the laptop and talking to a camera and answering some voice notes. It's not work, it's really not. It's not work in terms of, the kind of work that humans have done for most of history, the kind of work that most people are doing right now. And if you can get your business to that point, you just have a level of freedom that nobody else really has. I probably know just a handful of people who have more freedom than that. They're all in online business of some sort. Some of them are in Airbnb and they have, a team managing Airbnbs and stuff. But effectively, everyone who has that kind of freedom is in online business. And it's achievable for anyone. You just have to actually start looking at how you're doing things. Are you doing things in a leveraged way? Can you build momentum with a small amount of inputs? And then the beautiful thing about that is if you get your momentum building activities down to 2 hours a day, the days you sit down and decide to do 8 or 10 hours of work, which I do frequently because I love my work, those days are compounding and they're really driving things forward. But it means that you're not reliant on an 8 or 10 hour day every day to drive the business forward. And then you can actually have the freedom. Like, I'm sitting recording this video in 10 days time. I'm going to be here for another 10 days. In 10 days time, I go to the UK for a mastermind. I've spent about £1,000 or €1,000 for that 1 day mastermind because I had to buy the ticket. I had to buy 2 nights accommodation in a hotel in Manchester Centre. I went for a nice hotel as well, just because I think it's important to I think to treat yourself to these things, even though, you can go for somewhere slightly cheaper. But I think it's important when you're working and you want to be in a good headspace and you want to be energetically in a good place and excited and feeling good about life. That's going to shine through in your content. It's going to shine through in how you deal with your clients. So I think it's important to do that, but that's for another video. I had to buy 3 new flights and cancel. I didn't even cancel the flight because I didn't insure the flight. So I lost 1 flight and I had to buy 3 new flights and I have to go and spend a day in Budapest. Just all this random stuff. Plus, of course, I'm going to eat out and have a meal, in a nice restaurant and stuff with the guys. So I'm going to this mastermind. It's costing me €1,000 just for a day to be in and around these people who I can learn a lot from and who I will level up from being around. And then I go back to Sofia and I have 2 weeks, and then I go to the seaside for 2 weeks. So effectively for the next 6 weeks, my life is very broken in terms of routine. I don't have a routine for the next 6 weeks. And previously on trips, I've fallen out of momentum. But the reason, and I've identified this for myself, the reason was that I put too much pressure on myself on those trips to have to do all of these things to drive the business forward. And even since February, the last time I traveled was February, and I went to Portugal. And I had a list of about 10 or 15 things that I wanted to do daily to drive the business forward. And they were working really well. But effectively, as soon as I went and traveled, those things, none of them got, or very few of them got done because it was just too many things. And it would have taken me 5 hours to do the things. And when I'm traveling, I'm just not working 5 hours a day. So I, since then, have really just pulled them down to like 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours of things that I will do each day to drive the business forward. And what I'm sharing with you now is, what I've learned through doing this, obviously really badly 2 or 3 years ago, where I just had to hustle like 8 or 10 hours a day to drive the business forward, to the point where, okay, I had to hustle, or not hustle necessarily, because I don't know if 5 hours a day work is called hustle, but having to work 5 hours a day to the point now where things can move forward with literally 2 hours a day to actually drive the business forward, to keep leads and sales coming in, to keep my current clients getting results, and a couple of masterminds spotted throughout the week. And that's effectively what I have brought it back down to. So I've really simplified things. and I've looked for leverage. And that's probably it. If you want to find more momentum in your business, think about, how can I find the fewest number of things and drive the business forward in the least amount of time, the least amount of tasks? Because if you can find that, that means you're driving your business forward with the minimal amount of input. And that's not to say not to work or to be lazy or anything like that, but it just means now all of that extra time, if you double up and give it more input, you're going to just grow faster. Versus if you fill each day with 8 hours and it takes you till the 7th hour to actually get to the things that drive the business forward, well, you're effectively just wasting hours and hours and hours of time when you could be sitting down and driving the business forward.